She was just an intern until one line she read out loud turned the whole boardroom against its own CEO. Because when she said, "Excuse me, but this clause is a trap," every mask in the room fell off. The city's skyline burned with glass and ambition. Inside Whitstone Global Enterprises, morning sunlight hit chrome tables and poured across white marble floors like a spotlight, one that never reached the corner where Maya Coleman sat. She was the intern no one remembered introducing. Her ID badge still glinted like proof she existed, though most days she felt more like a shadow with a clipboard. The boardroom was already full when she slipped in, executives murmuring about mergers, numbers, futures. At the head sat Damien Hale, Whitstone CEO, a man who smiled the way wolves show teeth. His cufflinks caught the light each time he gestured toward the giant screen. Charts, clauses, promises of ethical globalization. Maya took notes quietly, her handwriting small but precise. She'd learned early that invisibility had perks. People spoke freely around those they didn't see. "Harper, make sure the compliance review is airtight," Damien said. "Yes, sir," replied Harper Nguyen, senior associate, sharp eyes, sharp mind, and the only one who sometimes met Maya's gaze with something human. When the meeting ended, folders closed with military precision. As chairs scraped back, Maya's hand lingered on the stack of contracts left behind. Legalese danced across the pages, familiar yet strange. One line stopped her: "Employee Culpability Clause, subsection D." The phrasing twisted like barbed wire. "Something wrong?" Harper asked softly, pausing by the door. "Oh, nothing. Just unusual wording." Harper smiled faintly. "Welcome to corporate law. We sell perfection wrapped around loopholes." Maya nodded, but her stomach tightened. The clause transferred full liability to mid-level managers if international partners defaulted. That wasn't just unusual, it was predatory. All day she couldn't unsee it, even when she fetched coffee or ran files to the 27th floor. The words burned behind her eyelids. That evening, after everyone left, she stayed. The building hummed differently at night, less human, more electric. She reread the clause, tracing each word like a detective examining fingerprints. It was elegant deception, hidden under the rhythm of corporate language. She remembered her mother's voice from long ago, reciting while balancing bills at the kitchen table. "Baby, never sign something you don't understand. Words can build cages too." Maya smiled sadly. She had chased this job for stability, not justice, but justice had a way of finding her. When she printed the contract for notes, the printer jammed. She knelt, tugged the paper free, and noticed someone's initials in the margin: DH. Damien Hale himself. Her pulse quickened. Executives didn't annotate clauses unless they mattered. "Still here?" Harper's voice startled her. Maya straightened. "Just double-checking a detail." Harper leaned against the doorway, watching her. "You see everything, don't you? That's dangerous in this place." "I just want to learn." "You will, but learn which truths are worth speaking." The warning lingered long after Harper left. Later, riding the empty elevator down, Maya caught her reflection in the mirrored wall. Tired eyes, braided hair slightly undone, a young black woman in a white tower built to ignore her. "Excuse me, but this clause is a trap," she whispered to the reflection, testing how it would sound if she ever said it out loud. The words tasted like courage still finding its shape. By the time the doors opened to the lobby, she already knew. Tomorrow she wouldn't just observe, she'd speak. And somewhere in the tower above, under soft golden lights, Damien Hale rehearsed another smile for another meeting, unaware that one quiet intern was about to change the tone of his entire empire. The next morning, the office shimmered with its usual artificial calm: espresso shots, high heels, and the soft hum of fluorescent authority. Maya arrived early again, her notebook pressed tight to her chest, her heart already thudding against it. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the clause replayed in her mind, each word twisting tighter, like a lock that dared her to find the key. When she stepped into her cubicle, there it was, a new folder waiting on her desk, marked investor proposal, revised draft. She flipped it open, same tone, same formatting, but deeper inside, hidden between footnotes and disclaimers. The same line had been rewritten, expanded and disguised under new terminology, employee oversight for contractual defaults, as applicable under moral conduct clause. Her breath caught. They'd made it sound noble, a trap dressed as integrity. Morning, Maya. Harper's voice floated over the partition, calm as ever. Morning, Maya said, trying to sound casual. Harper, who writes these revisions, mostly Damien and his personal counsel. Maya hesitated. I just noticed something strange about the moral conduct clause. Harper peeked over the divider. Let me guess. It punishes the lowest rung for the highest crimes. Maya blinked. Exactly, that's his specialty. Harper leaned closer. You have a sharp eye, but be careful. This company worships hierarchy more than truth. And Damien, he doesn't like being corrected. Maya nodded, but the words didn't land as warning. They landed as challenge. All day she worked quietly, moving between meetings and printing rooms, collecting copies, notes, small fragments of the truth. Every document led her deeper into a pattern, a design too deliberate to be coincidence. The trap wasn't a mistake, it was policy. At lunch, she sat alone in the company cafe, stirring her tea until the sugar disappeared. Across the glass wall, she could see Damien laughing with two board members, his posture easy, his smile flawless. He looked like a man who believed the world would always bend his way. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. Proud of you, baby. Don't let them tell you what you see isn't real. Maya smiled faintly, then noticed something. A small group of junior employees whispering nervously at the next table. One of them, a young woman from HR, was scrolling through an internal memo on her tablet. The headline read, New liability agreement for regional managers. Her hands went cold. The clause wasn't theory anymore. It was already in motion. That evening, when the office emptied again, Maya stayed behind. She opened the shared drive, heart pounding, scrolling through document after document, until she found what she was looking for. Damien's personal notes, locked behind a password. She shouldn't have known it, but she'd overheard him once dictating it to his assistant, Aphrodite 20. Each line confirmed it. The clause shifted millions in potential losses from the company to its employees, all while protecting upper management with immunity. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen. It wasn't just unethical, it was monstrous. Still burning the midnight oil, she startled. Harper again, coat slung over one arm. Couldn't sleep, Maya said, quickly minimizing the window. Harper studied her for a moment, then walked closer, lowering her voice. You're seeing how it really works here. The clauses aren't the trap, the culture. Maya exhaled. But someone has to say something. Maybe, but you should know truth has a way of turning on its messenger. For a moment, silence filled the space, heavy and electric. Then Harper smiled faintly. Still, I admire your courage. When Harper left, the elevator doors closing softly behind her, Maya opened the file again. She saved it quietly, discreetly, onto her flash drive. In the reflection of the dark window, her own face looked back at her, faintly lit by the computer glow. She didn't look small anymore. She looked steady. As the clock struck midnight, she whispered, Tomorrow I'll say it out loud. And in that still, humming silence of the 47th floor, a single line on a digital page shimmered, waiting for the voice that would finally call it what it was. The next morning began with thunder outside and tension inside. Rain streaked down the glass walls of Whitstone Global, turning the city beyond into a blur of silver and gray. The boardroom was already alive, suits, coffee, and the kind of laughter that sounded like strategy. Maya stood near the doorway, clutching her notepad, pretending to review her notes but really listening. On the main screen, a sleek presentation flashed. Employee-driven integrity, Wheatstone's new global model. The irony twisted in her stomach. Damien Hale, immaculate in charcoal and confidence, gestured to the slide with effortless charm. This clause ensures accountability across our leadership structure, he said smoothly. A fairer, leaner system, one where responsibility begins at every level. Applause rippled. The board members nodded, impressed. No one saw the deceit but her. Harper, seated at the far end, met Maya's eyes briefly. A small, unreadable glance, half warning, half encouragement. Maya's heart pounded. She could still back out. She could let the words pass, file her report quietly, survive. But as Damien smiled and said, "Our future is built on transparency," something inside her snapped into focus. She raised her hand. "Excuse me." Heads turned. The CEO's voice stilled mid-sentence. Every sound seemed to vanish. The projector's hum, the shuffle of papers, even her own breath. "Go ahead," Damien said, smiling that rehearsed smile. "Our intern has a question." Maya stepped forward, her voice calm but steady. "Yes, sir, about Clause 14, subsection D." A flicker in his eyes. "Yes?" She lifted her printed copy, her fingers trembling slightly. "It appears to transfer liability for contractual defaults directly to regional employees, even in cases where they have no control over the breach. That means if a partner overseas fails to deliver, our staff here could lose everything: their jobs, their benefits, even legal protection." A stunned silence followed. "Surely that's not what you intended," she said softly. Across the table, someone shifted uncomfortably. Another board member frowned at his notes. Damien laughed, a touch too quickly. "That's a misinterpretation. It's legal phrasing, standard industry language." "With respect," Maya said, her tone polite but firm. "I cross-referenced it with 3 other contracts from the same quarter. The phrasing isn't standard, it's deliberate. It's designed to deflect corporate responsibility." Harper's pen froze mid-note. "Maya," Damien began, still smiling, "you're new here. Sometimes the deeper context." She interrupted quietly. "I read the context. It's unethical." The air thickened. A few executives exchanged uneasy looks. Finally, Elena Ross, the board chair, leaned forward. "Is this accurate?" she asked, her voice cool. Damien hesitated. "It's being reviewed," but Harper spoke up. "She's right. The clause exposes us to liability lawsuits if it's enforced. It's not compliant with ethical labor law." Now the silence broke into murmurs. Papers shuffled. The illusion of control cracked like glass. Damien's jaw tightened. "We'll discuss this privately." Maya gathered her paper. "Of course." She turned to leave, pulse still hammering. But before she reached the door, Elena's voice cut through the tension. "Ms. Coleman." Maya froze. "That was very brave," Elena said. "Leave those documents with me." Maya nodded, handing them over before walking out. The whisper of her heels the only sound in the room. In the corridor, her breath came fast. She felt both terrified and lighter than air. Through the frosted glass, she could see Damien still sitting there, his smile gone, jaw tight, fingers drumming against the table. For the first time he looked small. Harper joined her in the hall a minute later, silent. Then softly, "You did it. I might have just ended my career." "Maybe," Harper said, Or maybe you just started it. The elevator doors opened, reflecting Maya's face in the polished steel, steady, calm, and no longer invisible. Somewhere above, behind layers of glass and reputation, a CEO sat in a silent room, staring at a single missing line of power he thought no one would ever see. And for the first time in his career, he didn't know what to say. By the next morning, Maya could feel the shift before she even reached her desk. Conversations that used to fall silent when she entered didn't bother pretending anymore. They just stopped altogether. The smiles were tighter. The air is cold. Even the receptionist, who once greeted her every morning with a bright, "You're early again," now avoided eye contact. The story had spread. By noon, she was called to HR. The room was too white, too bright, like a stage built for confession. Two managers sat across from her, hands folded, their faces trained into polite sympathy. "Miss Coleman," one began, "there have been concerns about yesterday's board interruption." "Interruption?" Maya repeated quietly. "Yes," the woman said. "While your intentions may have been good, questioning senior leadership publicly can be seen as unprofessional. It might create a perception of hostility." Maya took a slow breath. Pointing out an unethical clause isn't hostility. The man beside her cleared his throat. "We understand you feel strongly, but the company prides itself on internal discretion. These matters are best handled privately." "Privately," she said, the word bitter on her tongue. "That's how things like this survive." The woman smiled, brittle. "We'll be reviewing your performance this week. For now, take some time off." And just like that, she was dismissed. That evening, Maya sat alone in her apartment, the rain still tapping at her window like it hadn't stopped since the day before. Her laptop glowed faintly in the dark, the saved files waiting on her flash drive. The temptation was there to delete them, to vanish quietly before the storm got worse. Her phone buzzed. "Harper, are you okay? They're suspending me, I heard." Damien's panic. "He's blaming you to the board." "Of course he is." "Listen," Harper said. "You still have the draft files, right? The ones with his initials?" "Yes." "Then you're not done yet." There was a pause on the line, heavy. "Maya," Harper added softly, "if you're going to fight this, don't fight it alone. There are people here who believe you, but they need proof that can't be buried." When the call ended, Maya stared at the window's reflection of herself. Tired, frightened, but still steady. She opened her laptop again. One by one, she organized the documents, each revision, each memo, every time Damien's initials appeared beside the changing clause. The pattern formed its own confession. Then she saw something new, an internal email chain, labeled "Compliance Adjustment, Confidential." At the bottom was a message from Damien: "Ensure Clause 14 remains intact in all versions. Staff exposure acceptable. Media risk is minimal." Maya leaned back, the screen light flickering across her face. There it was, the proof. The next day, she sent the evidence, anonymously, to the board chair, Elena Ross. By evening, chaos reigned on the 47th floor. The clause was pulled from all active contracts. HR scrambled. Legal teams whispered in corners. Maya stayed home, expecting a termination email that never came. Instead, Harper showed up at her door 2 nights later, damp from rain, but smiling. "You're trending internally," she said. "Half the board sided with you. The others are too busy saving face." Damien, under review. He's blaming a drafting error, but Elena knows better. She's calling for an ethics audit. Maya stared at her. "So, what happens now?" Harper shrugged. "Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But I'll tell you this, everyone saw what you did, and they won't forget who told the truth first." For the first time in days, Maya laughed, a small trembling sound, that felt like breathing after being underwater too long. Later, when Harper left, Maya stood by the window, watching the city lights tremble in puddles below. The skyline looked different now, not as unreachable, not as untouchable. Her world hadn't gotten bigger, she had, and in one corner of a corporate tower where she once sat invisible, her quiet act of courage had already begun rewriting the rules. 3 weeks later, the world inside Wheatstone Global had shifted just enough for people to pretend nothing had happened, and yet too much for anyone to forget. The marble halls still gleamed, the espresso machines still hissed, but there was a new silence around certain names. Damien Hales was one of them. Maya returned on a Monday morning. Her badge still worked, but the elevator ride felt heavier than before. When the doors opened, heads turned, not with disdain this time, but curiosity. Some nodded, others quickly looked away, as if respect was contagious and they were afraid to catch it. Her cubicle was clean, her things untouched. A small note sat on her desk in Harper's handwriting. Truth doesn't disappear, it echoes. Before she could even settle, a message appeared on her screen. Meeting with board chair, 9:30 a.m. Her pulse quickened. The boardroom felt different now. Fewer people. No Damien. Elena Ross sat at the head of the table, her posture crisp, her expression unreadable. Harper was there too, seated near the corner, eyes warm but discreet. Maya Coleman, Elena began. We've completed the ethics review. Mr. Hale has been placed on indefinite leave. The clause has been removed from all company contracts. Maya nodded slowly. Relief didn't rush in. It settled, cautious and real. Elena continued. Your diligence brought something to light that others chose to overlook. You've reminded us that transparency isn't just a slogan. It's a responsibility. Maya hesitated. Thank you, ma'am. Elena's voice softened. I've approved a full-time position for you in compliance oversight, effective immediately. You'll report directly to me. Harper smiled faintly. Told you you'd start something. Maya glanced at her, grateful, but her voice came quiet and steady. I appreciate it, but I think I need to build something of my own. A few eyebrows lifted. Elena tilted her head. Your own? Yes, Maya said. A consultancy helping smaller companies write contracts that protect, not exploit. There are people out there who can't afford to be tricked by fine print. For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Elena nodded slowly. That sounds exactly like what this industry needs. That evening, as Maya packed her things, Harper stopped by her cubicle one last time. Are you sure about this? Maya smiled. For the first time, yes. They hugged briefly. Two women who had learned that survival wasn't about staying silent. It was about knowing when to speak. As Maya walked out of Wheatstone Global, the city greeted her with a wind that carried both chill and promise. The sun dipped between towers of glass, reflecting gold on everything it touched, including her. At the corner cafe, she paused for a moment, opening her notebook. On the first clean page, she wrote 3 words in neat script. Integrity builds legacy. She closed it, slipped it into her bag, and walked toward the evening crowd. Just another woman in a sea of ambition, yet somehow brighter. Behind her, the Wheatstone Tower loomed, tall and hollow. Inside, executives whispered about reputations and risk assessments, never realizing the story they'd just witnessed would become a quiet legend, whispered between interns for years. She was the one who caught the claws, and somewhere deep in her, Maya knew, her mother would have smiled at that, because in a world built on contracts and silence, she had signed something better with her courage, a life she could finally call her own. Sometimes power doesn't shout, it whispers through those brave enough to speak when silence feels safer. Maya didn't need revenge or recognition. She needed truth, and in finding it, she proved that integrity isn't weakness. It's the kind of strength that changes rooms, rules, and lives. In a world obsessed with contracts, remember your voice is the only clause that can't be rewritten.